afternoon, friends. Thank you all for being here, hanging out. We got Rainbow Ribbons, Purple Peril, Murray Kell back in the house. Looks like everybody's so far. Z Raven Girl, Miss Kitty and her are here. Nice. Rainbow Ribbons is doing bedtime with the younglings and listening in the background. Thank you all so much for hanging out. So I was looking through the Shirilla documents that have been made public. I haven't done any FOIAs myself on it or anything yet, but I saw that her appeal document is available from the Ohio Supreme Court. And I was scanning through it and it had a lot of interesting information. So I thought it would be interesting for us to just read over and talk about. Let me pull it up real quick. State versus Shirilla. Court of Appeals of Ohio. Let me get a drink real fast, y'all. I believe this one was denied. Let me just double check real quick. Hey, Amelia Essentials. Good to see you here. I appreciate all y'all dropping in at my drop of the hat lives. Was her appeal denied? Yes. Denied by Ohio's 8th District Court of Appeals on March 12th, 2026, because her attorney's petition was filed one day late. I assume this is it because I don't see another one, but weirdly I don't, oh, there it is. Judgment affirmed, released, and journalized September 26, 2024. Okay, so I think there are two appeals. Because there's another one that's dated March 12th, 2026. And it's a lot longer. The second one is way, way shorter. So I'm going to read the longer one because it has more information. The rest of the other one, the newer one, seems to be more just about like technical things with, the day late filing and stuff like that. Awesome, Patchouli Julie. Good to see you in here. Patchouli Julie's an OG. She's been around a while. Amelia says, it's incredible how she's trying to monetize from behind prison, get gigs modeling, job TV shows, disgusting criminal should be criminalized. I completely agree. Totally agree. I hope that Christine Russo is able to get traction on Dom's Law. I've signed her petition. I hope everybody else did too, if you feel so inclined. Some people may not. That's okay. But I personally think it's important. All right. So the 2024 appeal, here we start off. It says defendant appellate Mackenzie F. Shirilla appeals her convictions for multiple counts of murder, felonious assault, and aggravated vehicular homicide, as well as drug possession and possessing criminal tools. For the reasons that follow, we affirm. Now, it says, it uses language a lot like they admitted, blah, blah, blah. It just means they answered a question positively. Usually it sounds way more accusatory since it's legalese type stuff. Awesome. Patchouli Julie signed. Joking Rogue says, please sign. Trip the Light Fantastic is listening and making sourdough. That sounds great. Okay. Additionally, the petitioner must also show by clear and convincing evidence that but for constitutional error at trial, no reasonable fact finder would have found her guilty. Absent satisfaction of these statutory exceptions, the trial court must dismiss the petition for lack of jurisdiction. Here, Shirilla does not contend that she was unavoidably prevented from discovering the facts upon which her claim relies, nor does she assert a newly recognized retroactive constitutional right. Likewise, she does not satisfy the DNA based actual innocence exception because none of the statutory exceptions apply. The trial court lacks subject matter jurisdiction to consider the untimely petition, regardless of any alleged mistake in calculating the deadline or generalized appeals to fairness. Okay, so it's widely accepted that the attorney filed it 1 day late, and that's the problem. But here they're saying that the appeal didn't contain enough factually, even if it had been on time. That's what it sounds like to me. What do y'all think? Are you hearing it the same way? Hey, Becca, is Annie? Good to see you. Amelia has signed. Awesome. Good deal. Yeah, we don't want another Gypsy Rose. Hey, Kung Fu. Good to see you in here. I appreciate that, Joe King Rogue. Yeah, we don't want to glamorize crimes. Okay. A delinquency complaint was filed. Wait, am I on the right page here? I believe so. I think I lost my place. That's not what I was reading. Vehicular homicide, blah, blah, blah. Oh, I was said I was going to read the 2024 one, but I started reading the 2026 one by mistake, it looks like. And I was showing the 2024 one. Sorry, y'all. Didn't mean to be so confusing. Well, since I already started that one, let me go ahead and share it. Yeah, okay. So March 2026 one, that's the one I was accidentally reading, where it says that it didn't the deadline thing didn't really matter. I've lost my place again. Okay. In Shirilla's first assignment of error, she contends that the trial court erred when it concluded that the petition to vacate or set aside convictions were untimely. Shirilla argues that the 365-day block did not begin until December 15, 2023, when the juvenile bind-over transcripts were filed. The state conversely maintains that the clock was triggered on October 24, 2023, and the date the clerk noted on the docket that the trial transcripts from the criminal trial were filed. The state argues that a trial is a proceeding to determine guilt or innocence, and therefore a juvenile probable cause hearing does not fall under the statutory definition of a trial. Even assuming without deciding that Shirilla preserved her timeliness theories for appellate review, Shirilla's petition remains untimely under that quote, and Shirilla does not satisfy the jurisdictional exceptions. The court may consider such a petition only if the petitioner shows that both the petitioner was unavoidably prevented from discovering the facts supporting the claim, or that a new retroactively applicable right was recognized after the filing deadline or a prior petition, and that but for constitutional error, no reasonable fact finder would have found the petitioner guilty or, in a capital case, eligible for the death penalty. The court may also consider an untimely or successive petition where the post-conviction DNA testing evaluated with all the other admissible evidence establishes by clear and convincing evidence the petitioner's actual innocence of the offense, or in a death penalty case, of the aggravating circumstances supporting the sentence. So they're saying again that, it wouldn't even matter. She didn't present anything new in that appeal. And that's kind of why I was saying there wasn't really a lot interesting in here, just a lot of quotes of statutes and stuff like that. I'm not seeing anything in here that really pertains to the actual crash or Mackenzie's, that, sort of thing. So I'm going to go ahead and close that one so I don't make the same mistake again. And share the correct one. Let me check comments real quick, make sure I didn't miss anything good from y'all. Murray says, I agree and count, but wonder if stardom was a motive here following GRB's footsteps. Very possible. At least once it happened. And I blame my lunch. Patchouli, that's funny. Infamy, more like it. Yeah, definitely. Joking Rogue says, especially after hearing her and her mom in the jail calls. Yeah, they're definitely taken in by fame. Kind of remind me of Becky Boo Hill in the Alec Murdaugh trial. Okay. Sorry about the little detour there, y'all. Okay. It says the juvenile court found the state failed to establish probable cause that Shirilla committed the aggravated murder, but did find probable cause was established as to the remaining charges and transferred the case to general division. Cuyahoga, I'm not sure how to pronounce that, County Grand Jury returned a 12-count indictment charging Shirilla with 4 counts of murder. How is she charged with 4 counts of murder when only 2 people died? 4 counts of felonious assault, 2 counts of aggravated vehicular homicide, drug possession, and possession of criminal tools. The crimes were alleged to have caused the deaths of Dominic Russo and Davion Flanagan. Let me look at the comments and see if any of you know the answer. How was she charged with 4 counts of murder when only 2 people died? I don't get it. Oh, thank you. My hubby popping in with memberships for everyone. Congratulations to everybody who got one. Okay. If anyone knows the answer to that, how do we have 4 counts of murder with 2 people deceased? Let me know in the comments. I'll check them again in a minute. Okay, it says appellate waived her right to a trial by jury and she elected to have the charges tried to the bench. I've heard that that was her attorney's idea, and that appears to have been horribly, horribly misguided because, like I've said the other day, all of the detectives, homicide investigators that I've listened to who went over this have said things, especially the one lady, I'll have to pull her up, said that a judge is going to be way more likely than a jury to recognize what she referred to as a domestic homicide incident. And that really stuck with me. It made a lot of sense. So the whole like trial by bench, I don't understand what the thinking was there. And I really wonder for sure who pushed that. Looks like Patchouli Julie got a membership. Yeah, he is a great guy, Joking Rogue. He's pretty awesome. Kung Fu Panda says, you mean 2 separate charges for each? Well, it's confusing to me because it says 4 counts of murder, 4 counts of felonious assault, and then 2 counts of aggravated vehicular homicide. So it sounds like, 4 different murder charges for 2 people and then 2 additional homicide charges again for the same 2 people. So I'm sure there's a way that that makes sense, but yeah, I don't know. Z Raven Girl says the lawyer pushed for bench. Yeah, I keep hearing that. And I believe y'all. I just haven't seen anything documented on that yet. Lunatic 5194 says Mackenzie and her mom fib a lot, so it's hard to say whose idea was the bench trial. That's my thing is everyone keeps saying that. And like I said, I believe everyone in the chat that, they've seen this documented somewhere. I just personally haven't seen it other than Mackenzie and her mom saying it. And they're kind of, got to have additional context before I believe anything they say. Okay, it says the trial court completed a judge view visiting several locations along the route traveled by Shirilla, Russo, and Flanagan on July 31st, 2022. The parties stipulated that the defendant is the person who was driving the car at the time of the crash. Michael Galassi testified that he is employed as a police patrol officer with the Strongsville Police Department. On July 31st, 2022, Strongsville Police received a 911 call reporting that a vehicle had crashed into a building near the intersection of Progress Drive and Alameda Drive in Cuyahoga County. Galassi responded to the scene and he testified that he observed a black car crashed into a building and the car looked like it's cut in half. There was heavy front end damage and appeared that it's cut down the middle. Galassi related to dispatch that the situation was pretty severe. Galassi ran to the driver's side and saw the legs and torso of what appeared to be a female. The upper half of the driver's body was on the passenger's side, underneath the passenger dashboard, caved in on top of her. That part is so weird to me. I mean, I don't know anything about, crash forensics and how those car crashes work, but I hear all the time that the car looked cut in half. I don't understand how she was partially under the passenger dashboard, but I worry about Googling crash scene photos too much. I don't know if graphic ones were leaked, but I learned my lesson a little bit when I Googled the Dee Dee Blanchard crime scene photos. And I happened to Google them at a time when someone had posted the unredacted ones in a easily Googleable location. And that is certainly seared in my brain. Let's see what y'all got to say. Kung Fu. So, Julie, is that in case one doesn't have enough evidence? Yeah, and it almost seemed to me like there are 4 different counts of murder that they're going for, maybe in addition to the 2 vehicular homicides, just kind of throwing everything up and seeing what it'll stick, unless I'm completely misunderstanding that part. Hey, Angela, good to see you. I'm glad you're finally getting a notification. Yeah, sometimes they're all notifications and sometimes nobody gets one. I keep developing theories about why, and they keep getting discredited. Patchouli Julie says, I agree. She was wearing a seatbelt also. The whole thing's super weird. Okay, so it says Galassi ran to the passenger's side next, where he observed that a passenger, later identified as Flanagan, was on top of the passenger seat with his back on top of the passenger seat and his head facing the top of the car. Flanagan appeared to be deceased as he did not seem to be breathing and had severe head trauma. Galassi continued searching the vehicle and discovered a third occupant. Galassi related that the passenger seat was reclined all the way, and the third occupant was in the passenger seat with Flanagan laying on top of him. The third occupant, Russo, also had severe head trauma. Based on his initial assessment at the crash, Galassi believed that all 3 occupants were deceased at the scene. As officers broke a window and began cutting the airbags, however, they heard mumbling and determined that the driver was still alive. The Strongsville Fire Department arrived on scene and used tools to extract Flanagan, then Shirilla, and finally Russo. Shirilla had significant injuries to her leg and arm. One of the first things she said was, "How is Davion?" I want to stop for a minute because I know there are a lot of theories that her and Davion might have been speaking in the car before officers got to the scene, and that she might have been aware that Davion was the only one still alive, and that's why she said that. So I don't know if that's correct. It's a theory, but it is strange that she asked about Davion first when he was kind of coincidentally in the car. Super, super weird. Let me check comments real quick. Murray Kell says, sometimes it's hard to prove that the accused person had all the requirements, evidence of the crime. So, like with first degree murder, the prosecution needs to prove everything in second degree. Okay, so they might have been doing like first and second or second and third for both Davion and Dominic, plus vehicular homicide too, to see which one would actually do something. Z Raven Girl says maybe the 4 counts are for if the state felt that behavior is premeditated and deliberate. Yeah, it sounds like that's right. The state's laws are a little bit different. Some would call them included offenses. In that case, if you prove murder 1, you have to prove. Man, it's so confusing how different states can be totally, totally different. Patchouli Julie says that's weird. Boudica 97, what happened with Toll podcast? Well, I mean, the interview is done. She's supposed to be dropping it today, but I don't know what time. I'm not sure she ever announced a time specifically. But yeah, it'll definitely be out, I'm sure. I haven't heard anything from Nancy of a problem with it. It's going to be good, y'all. I mean, it might. Yeah, anyway. Patchouli Julie belts and suspenders. I don't know what y'all must be having a different conversation there. Kung Fu Panda says if he was on top of the passenger seat, he may have been trying to get out of the car, or he might have been trying to check on Dominic or Mackenzie. But it just, yeah, it really does seem like there's a possibility that him and Mackenzie spoke before he passed. But hey, Ivona, good to see you. No worries on being late. I'm glad you made it in. It's also weird to me, and again, like I said, I haven't looked too much. Like I saw the body cam footage of the officers and stuff, but I haven't looked too much for crash scene pics because I'm afraid of accidentally coming across unredacted ones like I did with Dee Dee Blanchard. But it's weird to me. I hear all the time, the car was cut in half. It was like it was cut in half. No way the passengers could have survived. But when I'm reading this, it says, the passenger seat was laid back. Occupant was in it. Davion was on top of him. So it doesn't seem like the passenger side was actually smashed off or the car was cut in half. So I don't know. There's something about that is confusing to me. Is it to anyone else, or have y'all already, looked into that? Yeah, the car did look really, really bad to me. That's kind of why I was surprised to read that, the passenger seat was pretty much intact and everything. I don't know. A lot of questions on this one. But I feel really, it's just very, very strange to me that the first thing she asked about was Davion. It feels like there has to be some kind of reason for that, and that she had already figured out something that had happened that she's not willing to tell everyone. Okay. So this part is also sad to read. I just, RIP Dominic and Davion. Based on his initial assessment of the crash, Galassi believed that all three occupants were deceased at the scene. As officers broke a window and began cutting the airbags, however, they heard mumbling and determined that the driver was still alive. The Strongsville Fire Department arrived on scene and used tools to extract Flanagan, then Shirilla, and finally Russo. Shirilla said, oh, I'm sorry, y'all, I already read this. She had significant injuries to her leg and arm. One of the first things she said is, how is Davion? Emergency personnel called for 2 air ambulance, one each for Shirilla and Flanagan, who was determined to be still alive as well. Unfortunately, Flanagan died on the scene before the helicopter arrived. Galassi went to the hospital where medical personnel had taken Shirilla. He learned that alcohol testing had been conducted and Shirilla had not been under the influence of alcohol at the time of the crash. Galassi then returned to the scene to collect evidence. Officers collected 8.1 grams of mushrooms, a digital scale, 2 cell phones, a bong, a bag of marijuana, a purse, and a Cadillac key fob. Interesting. I think that's about the amount. Let me go back to Rosie and Mackenzie's text real quick. Okay. On July 30th, Rosie texted Mackenzie, we want 40 worth of bud. Bubba wants 3. I want 2. Then when they went to the mushrooms, she said, Bubba wants 3. I want 2.5. Nina wants 1.5. Paul wants 2.5. So that's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So either nobody took mushrooms or they brought extra in case. Like, I'm not sure. I don't know. What do y'all want? What do y'all think? Let me look at your comments real quick. Murray says, I hadn't heard that until now. Angela says, I am confused, but I've not looked at the crash site. Yeah, it's really weird. Rainbow, was there any chance she and Davion were together? I don't get that impression at all. But, Patchouli says, I wish I could hear the accident investigator's opinion. I think I saw that document. We'll have to go over that one too. Angela says 100 miles per hour, no telling aerodynamic. Yeah, that's something I was talking about yesterday. At a certain speed, you can be a really good driver. You can have some racing experience. I mean, obviously she didn't, but she did have experience speeding. Um, you can have some experience going at those kinds of speeds and still have something unexpected in the road conditions or whatever and lose it. Murray says the parents' reactions to the police are very suspicious to me. Me too. Me too. Hey, Tony 1300. Good to see you in here. Murray says, based on her history, I find it suspicious that she chose not to drink or partake in any drugs that night. That's a dang good point. I had not thought of that, but that is a dang good point. Because if she had been planning anything, she wouldn't have wanted to have anything in her system, right? Ugh, that's creepy. Oh, thank you so much, Jazza. I appreciate that. Patchouli, always extra. Been there. Emotional support. Yeah, they were making sure they wouldn't run out. Murray says it seems like it was premeditated and she just didn't plan for Davion to be there, but still went through with it, in my opinion. It kind of feels like it. Like, yeah. Kung Fu says, wouldn't these sort of party favors slow a person down? Not necessarily. Mushrooms, if people they affect people differently. Like some people can't take large amounts and only kind of microdose or they throw them up. Other people get really hyped up, almost like manic and, are freaking out about the things that they're seeing and hallucinating, whereas other people go all mellow and don't want to move and stuff. Hey, End of the Weeds, good to see you. Joe King Rogue says, are they able to test for mushrooms like they would with weed? Also, those are precise numbers for drugs and a scale. Oh, yeah, they were definitely dealing. Now, can you test for mushrooms like weed? I don't know. Let me check. Hang on. Are there drug tests for mushrooms like weed? Yes, specialized drug tests for mushrooms exist, but not like the one used for weed. Yeah, apparently there are screenings for that. So you would hope and assume that considering all the shrooms that they found in her car, that they would have tested for that. We'll have to see if those documents are available too. Big agree she planned it, says Z Raven Girl. Yeah, I feel like it was premeditated one way or another. I don't know how much I believe that she thought she could survive, or if she just thought about it a few times and suddenly had an impulse, or if she actually decided to do it right then. I don't know. I have conflicted feelings about it. That's why I want to keep learning everything until I get my opinion nailed down, y'all. How long do shrooms stay in one system? Angela said. Good question. Let's check that one out too. Just a second. If I have an NSA agent monitoring my Google activity, they're going to think I'm trying to pass a drug test somewhere. Says the active compounds in shrooms are metabolized very quickly. In most cases, the body eliminates them within 24 hours. Furthermore, standard drug panels do not screen for shrooms. Like I said, it's not standard, but you'd think surely, considering her car and, two people deceased, that they would have screened her. It says in urine, the active metabolites are typically detectable for 24 to 48 hours. Blood and saliva usually clear in 15 to 24 hours. Hair can theoretically detect use for up to 90 days. So it really seems like they could have tested her somehow. Arajizi, if I'm pronouncing that wrong, I apologize, says, or maybe that's Ra. I think she had thought of doing this, but I don't think she planned it in the way most murderers plan for their crime. I think she just thought it so much she eventually did it. That's a better way of describing kind of like what I was trying to come up with a minute ago, and I wasn't really like braining out the right words. But like I kind of feel like she did a combo of premeditation and impulsiveness, like what Array just said here. Like she thought about it so much, eventually she would just let the intrusive thought win and did it. And I really, the more I read, I think this part, possibly the most premeditation she could have done is trying it earlier and saying it was Dom. But then, Dom can't speak for himself. He might have grabbed the wheel too. I just don't know at this point. Still taking in the information. And like I said yesterday, Dom can have had problems and done some bad things and still be an absolute 100% victim of the tragic crime here. And I still hope that we get Dom's law passed. Amelia Essentials, I heard that Mackenzie was doing OnlyFans. I believe what she was doing is feet pics. And what's weird about the feet pics thing is, someone, I fear there's much worse in your history from the GRB. That's funny. Um, I'm behind on the comments here, so trying to catch up. So with the feet pic stuff, she did that, but then like whenever she was texting the one friend, not Rosie, but Grace, asking her to do her homework for her, she was gonna trade her a pedicure in exchange. And then she like also the dad, can you come rub my feet texts all the time. I just started making me feel like she has something weird going on with feet. You know what I mean? Like I wouldn't necessarily put those two things together, like the exchange a pedicure for homework or dad rub my feet. I wouldn't necessarily say that about just those two things, but then when you add the feet pics in with it, so she's definitely well aware of foot fetishes and all the stuff that she's talked about and done in prison. Yeah, I suspect a foot thing going on there. Rainbow Ribbon says, into the weeds, we're all going down together. Oh man. Yeah, if an NSA agent was worried about my Google history, me researching everything that Gypsy Rose did definitely would have done it. um Gwynny Farlack, I hope I'm pronouncing that right again. Gwen says, I think it was impulsive. I think if that really happened with Dom, it proves she could mess with the car and scare her. So she decided she'd take it to 100 to him in the moment. Yeah, kind of agree. Yeah. Kung Fu Panda says she was an aspiring foot model. Loved her piggies. Oh, man. Yeah, it definitely seemed like it. Amelia Essentials. Lisbeth PCB. I just want to say hi before I go to the beginning and start over. I hope you're all doing well. Thanks, Lisbeth. Good to see you. Thanks for stopping in. Okay. Says Galassi then returned to the scene to collect evidence. Officers collected 8.1 grams of mushroom, digital scale, 2 cell phones, a bong, a bag of marijuana, a purse, and a Cadillac key fob. Now, here's what I was talking about in the very beginning, how the language is a little weird, like admitted. On cross-examination, Galassi admitted that Progress Drive is a cut-through street with a speed excuse me, speed limit of 35 miles per hour. He admitted that drivers use Progress Drive as a cut through to get from Pearl Road to State Route 82, Royalton Road, and they often exceed the speed limit traveling on that route. Brent Robinson testified that he is employed as a patrol officer with the Strongsville Police Department and has driven through the area of the crash hundreds of times. He described the area as a commercial area and described the route as follows. It's a concrete paved road. It's one of our older paved roads in the city, I would say, and it's got some wear and tear to it. You can tell there is certain sections of the concrete that are raised, so it's a little bit difficult driving, I would say, like the speed limit down the road. You can feel the bumps as you are driving in your cruiser. When you drive onto Progress Drive from Pearl Road, it goes from east to west, and there is a series of curves that you will experience in the roadway. Once you get to the end of Progress, it's a T intersection. Robinson responded to the crash scene. The prosecution played recordings captured by cameras inside his patrol car facing out in front, the front and rear windshields. The camera recorded Robinson driving at a maximum speed of 54 miles per hour, and he stated this was as fast as he could safely drive on that road. It is a rough road, so even at the speed, he had to hold on to the steering wheel to make sure that I was in control. And this is interesting to me and goes to what I was saying yesterday about those speeds because going to 100 miles an hour, um, she definitely, even if it wasn't premeditated murder, I feel like it was definitely at least vehicular homicide. Like she was driving like hell on wheels, like the court said, you know? Murray says, yeah, that's an interesting language choice. Oh, that sucks, Cherokee. I liked the interview. Patchouli says, maybe not planned, but considered. Hey, Amos Hi-Fi, good to see you. Okay. Robinson assisted with breaking windows and cutting airbags in the crashed vehicle. Russo and Flanagan appeared to be deceased at the scene. Shirilla was stuck underneath the dashboard, facing down in her lap. On cross-examination, Shirilla was stuck underneath the dashboard, facing down in her lap. Now that's different from what we read earlier, because it said earlier she was stuck underneath the dashboard under the passenger dashboard. Unless maybe the passenger dashboard was crunched over into her side. That's the only way I can think. I don't know. It says on cross examination, Robinson admitted that Shirilla was unresponsive when he arrived on scene. Brett Stanislaw testified that he is employed as a firefighter paramedic and captain with the Beret Fire Department. He and other paramedics from Beret responded to the crash scene in Strongsville to assist Strongsville personnel because there were 3 persons needing assistance. The call for aid came to them just before 6:30 a.m. on July 31st, 2022. Strongsville personnel asked the Berea paramedics to provide aid to the driver of the vehicle who was being extricated when the Berea personnel arrived. Let me see if I can find a picture real quick of the car after they were taken out. Mackenzie Shirilla's car after crash. Just a moment. Okay, let me pull this up on screen. Just a second, y'all. Drop that one. Okay, so this is the car, and so it's not. Oh, thank you so much, Cherokee girl. I appreciate you. Um, so it's not technically cut in half like they said, but the front half really got the most of it. So, if we were looking at it with the mindset of she intentionally was trying to kill the passenger, it does you could definitely believe that she tried to smash off Dominic's part of the car, not necessarily Davion, because from the way I kept hearing that the car was cut in half, I didn't expect to be able to see the back half of the passenger seat or the back passenger wheel or anything like that. Cherokee Girl says, I didn't realize they weren't found for hours. Yeah, that's part of why I think Mackenzie was talking to Dominic. I do believe that theory with her saying right away, how is Davion? I said Dominic, I apologize. I meant to say Davion. I do believe she was talking to Davion, was aware that Dominic was gone, and that's why she said, how is Davion? Because he probably passed out at some point. But yeah, I don't know. Let's see what's everybody got in the chat. Hey, Stacy the OG, good to see you. Kung Fu says, I originally heard they were there from sometime the night before. I didn't realize it was 45 minutes. Thank you. Joe King Rogue says they left early that morning. Yeah, I believe they left the house at like 5 a.m. or something like that. Just a second. Let me go to her and Dominic's text. Oh, they end the day before. Never mind. They end at 1:41. I think they left the house at like 5 and got discovered close to 6, if I remember right. Yeah, I think we've all got a similar time here. Completely, Amos. Yeah. But yeah, looking at this, I can kind of see why they were saying cut in half, but that really only applies to like the front half. And it does look like the passenger dashboard could have been pushed a bit over to her head over in the driver's seat. Let me switch back. Thank you, Patchouli Julie. CCTV cameras said 5 a.m.-ish. Yeah. Okay. Stanislaw assessed Shirilla when she was extricated. Her eyes were closed when the assessment began. After paramedics began asking her questions, Shirilla gave delayed verbal responses back to them. Shirilla was confused but alert. She was not oriented to event or place. Stanislaw said that she was confused as to what the events were, but her pulse, motor, and sensation in her 4 extremities were normal, which he said ruled out a stroke, seizure, or other significant neurological emergency. Shirilla had several broken bones and her blood pressure was elevated on scene. Her blood oxygen level was 82 when a normal level is 95 or above. Her heart was determined to be in sinus rhythm with a normal heart rate. During the medical assessment, Stanislaw found a baggie in Shirilla's shirt which contained mushrooms. He also found a plastic case and he handed those items to a police officer. On cross-examination, Stanislaw admitted that a person could have a seizure before medical personnel arrived and there would be no signs of it during the medical evaluation. His assessment of Shirilla was limited to his observations at that moment in time when she was in the ambulance. Stanislaw further admitted that a blood oxygen level of 82 is extremely low. Normally, a level that low indicates that a person just went into cardiac arrest or just came back out of cardiac arrest. That level could also be seen in a person with chronic obstructive pulmonary disorder or another respiratory ailment, but it could also be the result of a misplaced measurement device or cold fingers. Stanislaus testified that during the assessment, Shirilla was confused, her eyes were closed, she had fractured bones, she was in pain, and she did not know what happened. Stephen Vanek testified that he is employed as a police detective with the Strongsville Police Department, and he was assigned to assist in the crash investigation. Shirilla's vehicle had crashed into a brick wall of a manufacturing facility operated and owned by the Plidco Company. Vanek spoke with the president of the company that operated the facility and took photographs of the scene. He collected pieces of the vehicle from the scene and, after obtaining a search warrant, searched the car involved in the crash. Vanek also collected surveillance video from businesses located near the crash site. Finally, he used a drone to capture video of the crash site area. Vanek authenticated the photographs and drone video he took, as well as the surveillance videos he collected. On cross-examination, Vanek admitted that there is a fairly sharp turn at the intersection of Progress Drive and Alameda Drive. There is a stop sign at the intersection, but because of tree cover, a driver does not necessarily see the stop sign until only a short distance before the intersection. Christopher Martin testified that he is 42 years old and a friend of Dominic Russo's family. Martin testified about an incident that occurred in July 2022 before the crash. Okay, this is an interesting part, friends, because this is the one where Mackenzie claimed in text that Dom tried to swerve her car off the road, and Dominic's family and the guy who picked him up say different. So let's see what she's got to say. Z Raven Girl says, yeah, Davion had a faint pulse at the scene. Murray says, I can't believe she survived that. Wow, I can't either, honestly. And that's what makes me think, it makes me have hesitation of saying that she definitely intended it, because I don't see her being able to self-alive. She loves herself way too much, in my opinion. But I can see her being goofy enough to think she would survive something that she clearly was not likely to. But I'm also just shocked that she did. It's, I don't know. It really confuses me. Stacey the OG says, I think she got jealous and lost her shit. She woke up and Dom wasn't sleeping with her. That's why they left the party they were at. Oh, I haven't heard that part. Let me know where you heard that at, Millie. Or not Millie, Stacey the OG. I was reading Angela's comment to me and called Stacey Millie. Oh man. Angela says, agreed on that. Let's see. Okay, so says, on a day that July, Martin was sitting with Dominic's mother, Christine Russo, when Dominic called Christine. Dominic seemed upset. Christine grew upset, and Martin agreed to drive and go get him out of the situation that could have been a bad situation. Martin called Dominic on the way in order to obtain his exact location and ultimately located the vehicle which Shirilla was driving and in which Dominic was a passenger on the shoulder of Interstate 71. Martin was on the phone with Dominic at the time. As both cars were pulling over, Martin heard Dominic and Shirilla arguing. During the course of the argument, Shirilla said, I'm going to wreck this car right now. Dominic moved to exit the vehicle when it came to a stop. Martin testified that he saw a tussle inside the car with Shirilla swinging her hands at him. Dominic exited Shirilla's car, entered Martin's car, and drove Dominic back to the Russo home. Dominic was upset. On cross-examination, Martin admitted that Christine Russo owns the two houses next door to each other. Christine lives in one house with two of her sons, and in July 2022, Dominic was living in the other house with Shirilla. Martin further admitted that he did not report the incident on the highway to the police. So I know, a lot of people feel that Martin could have perjured himself there by not telling, whether or not he heard anything about Dom swerving the car. We don't know. If he chose to perjure, it's not been proved anywhere. And it doesn't appear that the court found Mackenzie's stuff credible. So, yeah, I don't know. Joe King Rogue says she never wore her seatbelt and did that night. That's a dang good point, too. She's creepy. I really feel like she did it on purpose. I don't know how much premeditation she's capable of, but I just feel like whether it was a long-term plan or if she was just like, "Screw him, I'm crashing into the wall," that she did it on purpose is just my feeling. Thank you, Patchouli Julie. Hey, Edie, 1972. Stacy the OG says she's been listening to Jailhouse Calls. Hey, McCatherine, good to see you. Patchouli Julie says, I lost patience listening to the jailhouse calls. I had to stop. I have trouble with the jailhouse calls too. They are rough listening to her just whine and her mom just placate her and her prison talk. Yeah. Ugh. Oh, dang, Stacy. I didn't realize that's your hometown. If you told us before, I forgot that. Dang. Yeah, same with her messages. It was all bet, yes. Definitely, Angela. Hey, Highland girl, good to see you in here. Angela says she is an entitled little psycho. 100%. 100%. Stacy the OG says her mother makes my blood boil. Mine too. And her dad. Okay. Christine Russo testified that she is Dominic Russo's mother, and Dominic was 20 years old when he was killed. Christine owned two houses next door to each other in Strongsville. At the time of the crash, she lived in one and Dominic lived in the other. According to Christine Russo, Dominic and Shirilla had met in school and had been dating for approximately 4 years at the time of the crash. Christine considered Shirilla to be part of her family, and they spent a lot of time together over the years. Shirilla moved in with Dominic in December 2021 or January 2022. In the 6 months before the crash, Christine observed that the relationship between Dominic and Shirilla became strained. She observed fighting, arguments, disagreements, breakups, and threats. She reported that Shirilla became more possessive of Dominic. There came a time in August or September 2022 that Christine and Shirilla were together at Dominic's grave. Christine asked Shirilla why they did not ask for a ride on the day of the crash. Shirilla responded that they were not effed up. Shirilla and Christine also communicated by text message about the accident. Shirilla texted Christine the following: I remember turning onto the street, then my vision fades to black. It really kills me to not be able to remember anything. I promised you I would tell you. I've been asking my therapist why I don't remember, and she said it's because of trauma. I'm going to try to get myself hypnotized and make myself remember. Christine confirmed the incident on July 17th, 2022, where Dominic called Christine and needed to be picked up immediately, that Christine asked Christopher Martin to pick Dominic up, and the two returned to her house approximately a half hour later, and that Dominic was upset when he returned. After Dominic died, Christine Russo was provided with 3 videos of Shirilla and Dominic on a phone that had been inside of Dominic's house, which she provided to the police. Christine testified that the videos had been made in July 2022 after the incident on the highway, based upon the content of the conversations between Shirilla and Dominic, and had been recorded on a phone owned by William Ellis. The phone had been in Dominic's home and was returned to Ellis, who then discovered the video recordings. The court allowed the videos to be played over defense objection that they were inadmissible. In the videos, Shirilla can be heard threatening Dominic, then breaking into the house. Yeah, I've listened to those videos and they're insane, y'all. Like, she would never, ever take no for an answer. She always had to escalate everything to 1 million and just, yeah, it's nuts. Let me check comments again real quick. Got everybody saying hey to Highland Girl. Ivona says the jailhouse calls really infuriate me the way the mom and Mackenzie was making. Yeah, it's crazy. They are nuts. What does it mean when they say bet? Edie says, apparently it's like a shortening of like you betcha, like okay or good kind of thing. Purple Peril says her dad looks like Rod's older brother. Oh man, Steve Shirilla and Pimp Juice Rod. The dad wearing Drip Drop shirt on the docu. I stopped watching Drip over this case. I don't guess I know who that is. Oh, is it the boom thing? Ugh, yeah. Poor Rod. Russo's mom and sister have the same name. I think so. I think the daughter might have been named after the mom. I think. Randy Rod and Shithead Steve. That's funny. Rainbows. Oh, Kung Fu Panda. She got away with this behavior because of her looks. How long would an overweight acne sufferer have gotten away with this? That's a dang good point. Yeah, pretty privilege goes a long way. And thin privilege and short petite privilege. Like, yeah, all kinds of stuff into play here. A lot of people stop watching Drip, whoever that is. Kung Fu says, don't even think she's much to look at without makeup. Like, I think she's cute, but her behavior, once she opens her mouth, that cuteness fades because the way she talks is just, ugh. Brandy K says, late I am, just got back from airport. Awesome. Hope you're enjoying your time. Amos Hi-Fi Body Cam. That I made a whole video. I was so mad at TMZ for putting that up. Like TMZ just the other day was talking about how they wouldn't put up like some kind of body cam video because it was sensitive, but they've still got her up finding out about Dominic's death. Like it's just I don't get it. Don't get it at all. Yep, exactly, Ivona. Okay, back to the document here. It says Paul Burlinghouse testified that he is 19 years old and has known Shirilla since they were in middle school together. He knew Dominic Russo through Shirilla and knew Davion Flanagan through mutual friends. Burlinghouse testified that approximately 11 p.m. on the evening of July 30th, 2022, Russo, Flanagan, Shirilla, and other friends came to Burlinghouse's house to hang out. They listened to music and a few of them smoked marijuana. Burlinghouse did not smoke, and he did not believe that Shirilla did either. The tone of the get-together was quite chill, just like a normal sleepover. No one drank alcohol or used any other drugs. Burlinghouse went to sleep sometime after midnight and woke around 3 or 4 a.m., at which time Shirilla was asleep on the couch, but Flanagan was watching a television program with another one of their friends, but Burlinghouse did not see Russo at that time. Burlinghouse went back to sleep, and when he arose later in the morning, all of his guests were gone. One of his friends texted him to tell him about the crash, and he couldn't believe it. On cross-examination, Burlinghouse admitted that he did not see Shirilla and Dominic fighting at the get-together. Everything seemed fine between them. Tyler Croy testified that he is 19 years old. He knew Shirilla because they were classmates in high school, and he knew Dominic Russo through mutual friends. Croy and Davion Flanagan were pretty good friends throughout high school after they graduated. Croy and Flanagan were connected on the social media applications Life360 and Snapchat. Life360 is an application that tracks users' locations through their mobile phones and makes location information available to approved connections. Snapchat allowed the two to exchange photographs and electronic messages. Croy was out of state on July 31st, 2022, but he communicated with Flanagan over Snapchat in the early morning hours of July 31st. When Croy heard that Flanagan had been involved in the car crash, Croy took a screenshot of Flanagan's location data as recorded by Life360 and provided that information to police. The location data showed that Flanagan was at a home on Brushwood Lane in Strongsville from 11:39 p.m. to 5:30 a.m. The application recorded that the Flanagan was traveling from 5:30 a.m. till 5:36 a.m., at which point they crashed. The application recorded Flanagan was moving at 90 miles per hour. On cross-examination, Croy admitted that his understanding of Life360 data is simply from being a user. He is not employed by the application and is not an expert on it. Croy also admitted that while the application records phone usage, it does not document who in particular used Flanagan's phone. That's Mackenzie's defense trying to grasp at straws there. Says Kelly Vraha testified that she is 19 years old. She met Shirilla through mutual friends in 2020, and the two became friends themselves. On July 30th, 2022, Vraha hosted a graduation party. The party was laid back with friends hanging around a fire and playing some games. Shirilla drove to the party around 10:15 or 10:30 with Russo and Flanagan. Vraha welcomed them, and Shirilla asked Vraha if I trip, and Vraha responded that she did not. The three guests had brought a bottle of tequila and a weed pen with them, and she saw Flanagan holding the weed pen. Shirilla, Russo, and Flanagan were debating on going to somebody's house, or they were debating on tripping that night. Shirilla, Russo, and Flanagan stayed at the party approximately 25 or 30 minutes, during which time Raha did not see any of them using drugs or drinking alcohol, and they left. Angelo Russo testified that he is 24 years old and is Dominic Russo's brother. Russo met Shirilla when she and Dominic began dating, and that Shirilla was over at Angelo's house a lot. According to Angela Russo, Shirilla and Dominic had broken up many times over the years, and in June and July 2022, Dominic was considering ending the relationship for good. I absolutely believe that from his text messages. He wanted rid of her, for sure. Shirilla sent Angelo a few text messages after the crash, which Angelo provided to the police. In an August 6, 2022 text message, Shirilla asked Angelo, "Would you be able to go to Dom's room and grab some photos from his desk of me and him so I could put them in the casket so he can be with me forever?" Shirilla sent him another message later in that month in which she apologized for the crash and said, "I know you probably think this is all my fault. I wish that he was here too. This should never have happened. I really do feel bad. It's killing me." Adam McQuaid testified that he is employed as a sergeant with the Brooklyn Police Department. He is a member of a regional crash team that analyzes and reconstructs traffic crashes in the area. The party stipulated that McQuaid is an expert in accident reconstruction and forensic evidence data recorder analysis. The Strongsville Police Department requested McQuaid to review data taken from the event data recorder in the Toyota Camry involved in this crash. Let me take a little break for a minute, y'all, and get a drink and check comments. Hey, CJB, good to see you in here. I was wondering the same, Pajuli Julie. Rainbow Ribbon says, "I feel it's almost worth with grown kids. I have one grown and living in a different country, and my anxiety is way worse than she was a teen." Dang, yeah, I can imagine. CJB's saying hello to everyone in the chat. Joe King Rogue, yeah, it definitely should not be out there. I cannot believe TMZ put that out. Amos says, "I believe Don wanted to split too. Mackenzie seems like hard work, real hard work." Yeah, he seems to me like he really, really just wanted to be rid of her. She knew it. And like with everything, she can't admit a loss. She can't take an L. She can't be humble. She has to escalate everything to a million. It's just her nature. Hey, Jelly the Best. No worries. We're glad to see you here. Okay. Switch back over to the document. And it says, from his analysis of the data recorder, McQuaid concluded that the vehicle's accelerator pedal was fully depressed 4.6 seconds before the crash. The engine throttle was also at 100% until 1.6 seconds before the crash, when the vehicle went airborne as it went over a curb. Within 4.5 seconds at the start of the crash, the vehicle registered a small right turn, and then a small left turn, followed by a significant right-hand turn that caused the data recorder to note a rollover event, meaning there was enough lateral force on the car that the data recorder thought it was turning over. He explained that the car was traveling very fast And then there was a hard yank of the steering wheel, turning it 142 degrees. Says a small right turn and then a small left, followed by a significant right-hand turn. Now, I know this is what causes a lot of people to think that Dom might have grabbed the wheel and yanked it. And again, like, as far as I'm concerned, none of us know for sure. I don't fully have my thoughts nailed down on that, but it seems, honestly, I would suspect more just based on Mackenzie's behavior that she yanked it to the right. Dom was trying to stop her and she succeeded. Sorry, y'all. A large truck just went by on the road, Jake breaking it super loud. But yeah, like I said, I don't know what happened. I'm just figuring my thoughts out along with y'all. But the fact that there was a small right turn, small left turn, then significant right turn does sound like whoever started it, as if there was a bit of a tussle going on over the steering wheel, you know? Let's see. Amos says, I remember seeing the video a while ago on a body cam channel. Oh, yeah, that's so sad. Angela says, when did the airbags deploy? I don't know. Patchouli Julie says it popped when it went airborne. And Jelly the Best says when she hopped the curb. So it sounds like they know what they're talking about there. Yeah, for real, Rainbow Ribbons. Okay, let me go back to reading. Says the car registered a small change in velocity as it hit the curb and then a large change in velocity as the vehicle hit the wall. The vehicle hit the wall 1.1 seconds after the hard steering event. At no point in the 4.6 seconds before the crash was the brake pressed. See, that's the part that gets me. Like 4.6 seconds. It's very, very small amount of time, but it is enough to let off the gas and switch to the brake, you know? Says on cross-examination, McQuaid admitted that the data does not show what caused the steering wheel to make a hard right turn. He further admitted that the side airbags deployed approximately 30 milliseconds after the hard steering event. Okay, for those of y'all that were wondering that, yeah, it does sound pretty much right around the time it hit the curb. Says the data available from the computer was limited to the last 4.75 seconds before the vehicle hit the wall. Esther Sang testified that she is employed as a trauma surgeon at Metro Health Medical Center. The parties stipulate that Dr. Sang is an expert in the field of trauma medicine. Shirilla was examined on July 31st, 2022, after the crash. According to medical records, Shirilla reported pain everywhere. An exam determined that her airway was intact, her breathing and circulation were normal, and her pupils reacting normally. She was alert and oriented. A physical exam revealed that Shirilla's right elbow and right knee appeared abnormal, and there was a 2-centimeter laceration to the left knee. Shirilla's mother informed medical personnel that Shirilla had a history of postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, POTS, which can cause a patient to have an unusually elevated heart rate. That's okay. So it's interesting that the moms brought up POTS right away. And I've talked about, my opinion on the POTS a lot of times. I don't want to repeat it to the same people over and over, but if any of you in the chat need to hear more about POTS, just let me know. I'll switch over to looking at the comments. But immediately, whenever the mom talks about POTS, she talks about tachycardia. She doesn't talk about the possibility of her fainting. So I find that kind of weird. Okay. Stacy says, I think seconds before they crashed, the boys tried the steering wheel and gear shift. Yeah, it does sound like she might have been losing it. And they were trying to get some kind of control of the car because I think we'll read later that it shifted into neutral too. Missed you too, Angela. It's good to see you back in here. Hey, Tiger One. One Tiger One. Good to see you in here. Haven't seen you around in a while. Glad to see you back. Highland Girl says she had no intention of hitting the brakes. Yeah, I agree. Well, thank you, Rainbow Ribbons. Love that. Murray Kell says technically you're not supposed to brake when you're swerving. The best way to avoid an object is to let off the gas and rely on your wheel. I doubt she knew that though. Yeah, I don't think she was experienced in, advanced driving techniques or anything. So you'd think a normal non-trained reaction when you realize you're going to wreck if it wasn't intentional would be to try and brake. But she didn't seem to have that. Yeah, apparently she did, but she only mentioned tachycardia. Hey, Pixie Bree 90, glad to have you in here. We've been getting some new watchers lately, and that's awesome. Glad to have new people in the chat. We're pretty chill. uh Hi-Fi says, yeah, of course she had pots, right? Yeah, and as you all know, I have pots, and pots can a lot of people are under the impression that pots can only cause you to pass out while standing up because that's kind of in the name, postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. But if your tachycardia is advanced enough that it can cause you to have elevated heart rate, and you can have blood pooling from sitting down in the same place too long without getting up and moving or anything, you can have a POTS incident, a whole fainting incident sitting down. However, to me, there's way too much evidence showing that that didn't happen. I don't believe that she had that. And if your POTS is that advanced, most everybody's going to know about it in your life. And she was never talking about it. She wasn't taking any of the precautions that people like me have to. No compression socks. She's walking around at a carnival, riding rides that are a postural orthostatic nightmare. And yeah, I don't believe her pots was any kind of problem. Murray Kell says she was smoking pots, that's for sure, right? Santini says, yeah, and even if he did, I could see her the type to think he grabbed the wheel on me, now I'll do it back type of thing. Yeah, I think that with the first crash too. With the first crash, she was threatening to wreck the car. So it's like, yeah, it's crazy. Crazy, crazy, crazy. Exactly, Jelly the best. I've mentioned that before. Thank you for saying that though, because I forgot to bring it up this time. So when I pass out with POTS, I have what they call convulsive syncope. It's one of the more dramatic passing out ways to pass out. It looks like a seizure, but it's not. It's a completely different, like brain and central nervous system activity or whatever it is. It's not a seizure, but it looks all scary like one. So even with the most advanced kind of passing out that you can have with POTS, you don't like there's no way that her leg would have went stiff and kept the gas pedal down. Even if she had convulsive syncope like I do, where you don't just, go limply to the floor, your muscles jerk. They're jerking and flopping around. Your arms are being all crazy, like you're doing like a funky chicken flap on the floor or something. And so yeah, there's no way she would have been able to keep that pedal down or been able to steer around that curve right before going over the actual curb into the building and stuff. It just, in my opinion, anyway, friends. Let me get back to the reading. Oh, Gwen says, we have a world of self diagnosis. Show me proof of a diagnosis before the wreck. Exactly. Yeah. So many people watch a TikTok of someone explaining their medical thing, and if they've had an episode that is similar, they self-diagnose. And people have fainting spells that feel like POTS sometimes without actually meeting the diagnostic criteria for POTS, because a fainting spell can kind of feel like a fainting spell. I got Rainbow Ribbons laughing at me. Funky chicken flap. Exactly. Agonal 2877 says if she passed out, it would have been easier for the guys to get control of the car and they would still be alive. Totally agree. Totally agree. Patchouli Julie says, "Here's my POTS question. Aren't you supposed to be barred from driving if you have something like this? Stepkid has epilepsy and can't drive, never did." That's a great question. No, actually not. Different states have different laws, but when I was in Missouri, my cardiologist barred me from driving for a while. They restricted my driver's license because this has been almost 10 years ago, actually maybe more than 10 years ago. I had too many fainting spells close together, and cardiologist was like, "Nope, we're gonna have to before you can be cleared to drive again, you're gonna have to do a 30-day Holter monitor," which that's what they used to have to do back in the day. You had to wear this thing around your waist that monitored your heart rate. Now I just wear a ring that monitors my heart rate 24/7. But yeah, in order to get my driving privileges back for my driver's license, I had to I had to have months of monitoring until they felt sure that my episodes were not coming on as regularly as they were before, and that my symptoms and my tachycardia were under control. So even now, I take extra precautions just on myself because I just that scares me. I have nightmares sometimes of what if I was driving and blacked out. So I only drive very local, in town, slow, and I also made the choice to drive a standard. I drive a manual shift standard because it keeps my legs moving more and stuff like that. So I hope that helps with your question there, Patchouli Julie. And what I was talking about with the seizures and how it's completely different electrical activity and stuff like that than fainting. Yeah, people with seizures have way more, like, it's just a way more serious thing. I don't know a lot about seizures since I don't have them, but my cardiologist did tell me one time that if any of my fainting spells ever got labeled as a seizure, that it would be big trouble with my driver's license. And fortunately, they check me out real good every time I have had one where like 911 or ambulance comes, because that's happened several times. I've fainted in public. 911 gets called, ambulance come, and often the first thing people say is, "We think she had a seizure. She's, jerking around and stuff like that." And they do all the tests on me, and I've never had a seizure. So fortunately, as long as my symptoms with, 24-hour monitoring are good, my cardiologist still allows me to drive. And that's how it is with people with POTS. It's a constant monitoring and checking to make sure they still can. Jelly the Best said, "Hearing Shirilla talks makes you feel like I had a stroke." Me too. Yeah, Santini, I didn't see where she ever talked about seeing a cardiologist or anything like that. Murray Kell says, "That's how I feel as someone with pretty severe OCD when someone is simply organized as I'm so OCD." Right. Yeah. A lot of people who've ever had a fainting spell at all think they have POTS. And from what I understand, it is documented that Mackenzie did have a fainting spell or two in school. And she probably saw a TikTok and her mom decided she had POTS. Kung Fu Pandas, "Do you feel it coming on? Do you have a warning?" At times, but I've also had times where I didn't. And I do there was one time I fainted out of my chair. I was working from home. It was before I early retired. 1970, and we were dating at that time. This was about 8 years ago. And we were dating at that time, and we were states apart, and I like woke up in the floor, and I was confused trying to figure out what day it was, what's going on, why am I in the floor? Was I asleep? What's going on? And I noticed my laptop was in the floor and my phone. So I got my phone and I looked at it, and the last thing I had done was texted 1970 a few minutes earlier and said, "I don't feel good. I think I'm going to faint." And that's how I knew what had happened. Pachulia says, "Thank you, 1980. Good info." Yeah, you're so welcome. Jelly the Best says, "I don't think she would self unalive. She is too superficial. She loves herself a lot." Yeah, Murray Kell says her ego is way too big. I agree. Yeah, and especially after us really looking at the car, man, Like, it really looks like she was trying to hit front passenger only into that wall. Uh, Patchouli says, I think her thinking was they would both pass and she wouldn't be sorry. Poor Davion caught in the crossfire. That's possible. Very, very possible, Gwen. She wanted to prove she can control the situation over everyone out of anger impulsively. I think that's a lot of it. Yep. Oh my goodness, Angela, that's scary. Gina says, I think she wanted to take herself and Dom out Romeo and Juliet style. I could see that. That's the only way I could see her having self-unaliving ideations. Yeah. Oh, that's a good point too, Lulu. She says she would need to be a very skilled driver to only hit the passenger side. Yep. And just that one corner, because it really seemed like she was only getting Dom there. Okay. So back to it. It says, according to medical records, Shirilla denied drug use when asked by medical personnel, and alcohol blood tests reflected not detected. Medical personnel did not note any cardiovascular, neurologic, joint, or muscle symptoms. No symptoms related to sleep disturbances, anxiety, memory loss, disorientation, inattention, or depression were noted, and an electrocardiogram, which was performed, revealed that the electrical function of Sharilla's heart was normal. A medical record does note that Shirilla reported feeling depressed and felt grief, guilt, and shame. She said she wanted to die and expressed that it was her fault for killing her boyfriend. Now, that to me, like, she could have had a moment of remorse or she could have had a moment of confession. To me, that doesn't determine for sure anything one way or another. But yeah. On cross-examination, Dr. Singh admitted that a blood oxygen level of 82 would be abnormally low for most people. Dr. Singh further admitted that a patient with POTS may experience dizziness or a headache. Medical personnel evaluated Shirilla approximately 2 hours after the reported time of the crash. A person who has suffered a seizure or mini stroke could possibly have recovered within 2 hours. Michelle Ruminsky testified that she is employed as an investigator with the Ohio Bureau of Motor Vehicles Investigation Section. BMV records indicated that when applying for a temporary driver's license after the accident in 2022, Shirilla attested that she did not have any conditions that results in episodic impairment of consciousness or loss of muscular control. That's important, y'all. That is important. You know how we always talk about her and her mom and dad went to get her driver's license just weeks after the accident? She signed something that said she did not have any condition that results in episodic impairment of consciousness or loss of muscular control. That is crazy to do when you're trying to use POTS as a defense. I realized she hadn't been arrested yet, but they still already knew that the crash was being investigated. She had already, from what we understand, had asked her mom if they could say that it was a seizure. And she goes back and signs that, trying to get her license back. She is nuts, y'all. Crazy. Thank you, Ivona. I appreciate that. So Shirilla had made the same attestations to obtain her previous license, which was issued in April 2021. Mark Sargent testified that he is employed by a consulting firm known as Fire and Explosion Consultants, where he conducts mechanical defense analysis on automobiles. The parties stipulated that he is an expert, forensic mechanical expert. He was contacted by Strongsville Police to evaluate the Toyota Camry driven by Shirilla to determine if there were any mechanical failures that may have caused or contributed to the crash. Sargent inspected the vehicle on August 30th, 2022. There had been a recall for the vehicle, but Sargent confirmed that the issue had been adequately repaired by Toyota on this particular vehicle. Sergeant thoroughly examined the vehicle, including, but not limited to, the accelerator pedal, throttle mechanics, and brakes. He found no indication of any pre crash mechanical or electrical failure that may have caused a loss of accelerator control or a loss of braking or a loss of ability to steer the vehicle. And that's important too because there was a recall on Toyotas for sudden acceleration. And it sounds like he was checking for that. One Tiger One says, Kenzie gave me Amber Heard vibes. She was the aggressor and Dom was scared of her. I agree when looking at those videos of her and him together, like just what on earth? Yeah. Fire and explosion consultant, what a rad job title. You're so right. Like, what on earth? That's a firebug's dream. Yeah, that boom shirt was messed up. Messed up. No social awareness whatsoever. Agreed, Jelly the best. Hey, RLF. Good to see you in here. RLF says, just caught you, but I have thoughts. Well, share them with us. I'm going to read a little bit more and then I will come back to check comments again. Oh, dang, I lost my place again. Let me find it. Sorry, friends. Okay. Sergeant noted that vehicle components were partially buckled over the accelerator pedal, which combined with information that a slipper was found trapped underneath a rolled over component, caused him to conclude that the driver's foot was on the accelerator when the crash occurred. And because of the location of the slipper on the pedal, the slipper could not have been caught in such a way that it caused unintended acceleration prior to the crash. That's interesting because a lot of people have asserted that the slipper is proof of something, and the crash expert is asserting that it's proof that she had her dang foot all the way down on it. You know? Sergeant testified that he did not see any indication that the brakes had been applied for a long period of time in an attempt to stop the vehicle before the crash. The brakes appeared functional. Sargent researched the mechanical specifications of the vehicle. It was capable of going from 0 miles per hour to 60 miles per hour in 7.5 seconds. It could go from 0 miles per hour to 102 miles per hour in 26.5 seconds. Its maximum speed was 129 miles per hour. On cross-examination, Sargent admitted that the data recorder from the vehicle showed that both seat belts were engaged. The data also showed that the gear shift was shifted back and forth between drive, sequential, and neutral in the 4.7 seconds before the crash. The gear shift has to be manually moved. That part is what makes me think 100% that Dom or Davion was trying to stop whatever she was doing. Whether she intended to crash into the building or not, I think they were like, you're going way too fast. This is out of control. And tried to shift it into neutral to slow her down. Whether or not either of them ever grabbed the steering wheel or not, regardless of the steering wheel, I do think they tried to slow her down. Let me check comments again. Gina says, I think her parents are also, oh yeah, definitely. They don't want to be Gypsy Rosed, right? Jelly the best. They don't want a Dee Dee special. Poor Dee Dee. Rainbow Ribbons, her parents are inconsistent or large about, yeah, hugely. Frankenstein was afraid of his monster. Yep. Stacy the OG says Dawn was nervous about her turning him into the police, small-time pot dealer to high school kids. I suspect maybe to Kinsey's dad, too. Kung Fu Panda waiting for her dad to interview in the shirt with the black eyed peas, boom, boom, pout. Right? He will probably hear us say that and go do it. Dude is nuts. Rainbow Ribbon says, Jelly, her dad blew hot and cold on the limits, though. He should have pooped or got out the potty. So true. Yeah. Every now and then he would try to be like, no, you're not going to talk to me that way. But then he would just seem to completely just back down and let it go, Give her a foot rub and some warm milk. Lord alive. Oh, yeah. So bad. Jelly the best. That was Davion's little sister. It's just heartbreaking. Okay. The gear shift has to be manually moved. Sergeant calculated this vehicle could go from 50 miles per hour to 100 miles per hour in approximately 19 seconds. In 17 seconds, it could go from 60 miles an hour to 100 miles an hour. Sargent further admitted that a hard right turn could be consistent with the driver attempting to maintain or get control of the vehicle. It could also be consistent with the passenger pulling on the wheel to trying to avoid a collision. It could also have been a physical reaction caused by the impact of the vehicle hitting the ground after becoming airborne. It is possible that a driver attempting to brake may accidentally hit the accelerator. But he said that normally in that situation, he would expect to see a data recorder capture that the accelerator go from 100% to zero at some point. On redirect, Sargent could not ever recall investigating a crash in which the data recorded a 100% accelerator application throughout the entire duration of the incident with no brake application. On recross examination, Sargent testified that the hard right turn happened nearly simultaneously with the vehicle hitting the curb. Oh, that is interesting because that could indicate that the curb caused that. When it hits the curb, your wheels can turn in a way that does turn your steering wheel since the fronts are attached to it. Um, and that would indicate that the small turns before that, that there was, maybe a struggle going on before it hit the curb. And then the hard one was, after the curb hit. Says Joseph Fellow testified that he is a medical doctor employed as a forensic pathologist and chief deputy medical examiner by the Cuyahoga County Medical Examiner's Office. The parties stipulated that Dr. Fellow is an expert in the field of forensic pathology, and the court accepted him as an expert. The medical examiner's office concluded after its examination that Flanagan and Russo each died from multiple blunt force injuries consistent with an automobile crash. Flanagan's lethal injuries were to his trunk and abdomen. Russo's lethal injuries were to his head. Toxicology testing showed that Flanagan and Russo had both used marijuana before their deaths. So that answers a few people's questions in the comments, wondering whether or not Dominic and Davion partook that night. It's interesting. Apparently they did, and Kenzie didn't. Was she planning? My opinion, maybe. The manner of these deaths was initially classified as an accident based on a report from the Strongsville Police Department indicating that the death was being investigated as a traffic accident. In March 2023, the prosecution submitted additional evidence to the medical examiner's office and requested a reconsideration of the manner of death for the victims. The additional evidence consisted of transcripts from cell phones, still photographs, video images, and interviews with various witnesses. Based on that additional information, Dr. Fellow amended the autopsy report for the victims, changing the cause of death from an accident to a homicide. The report indicates that the investigation revealed the driver's intention of inflicting self-harm and harm to the passengers in her vehicle. On a cross-examination, Dr. Fellow admitted that the manner of death was changed for each of the victims based in part on evidence that Shirilla intended to unalive herself. That's interesting. Elliot Rawson testified that he is employed with the Ohio State Highway Patrol in the Crash Reconstruction Unit. The parties stipulated that he is an expert in crash reconstruction. Rawson completed a time distance analysis in relation to this crash. Interesting. Agonaut 287. I think I'm pronouncing your name different every single time, and I apologize. I really do. She says, I think Davion or they say, I think Davion was leaning across the front seat to stop her, and that's how he ended up. I was really wondering about that myself, honestly. Angela says, RIP Young Souls. Yes, can't say that enough. RIP Dominic and Davion. They did, but she didn't. Yeah, I think she had a slight bit in her system. I think they said it was too low to be considered, oh, what's the word? To be considered impaired or something like that. Let me put up the be right back real quick, friends. I need to run to the restroom and then we will continue reading. I'll let y'all chat amongst yourselves and I will be right back. Okay, I am back. Let me check comments real quick. Joking Rogue says, I hope they get Dom and Davion's law passed so other states will follow suit. I hope so too. Deeply hope so. I'm glad y'all are having a good time catching up in the chat. RLF says, knowing Davion was a great football player and Kinsey was so small, it almost seems like they could have overpowered her and gotten her off the wheel of the car. That's what I was about to say, RLF. I think it was just so quick. And with her never letting off the gas, like Jelly's saying here, it just seems like it was, yeah. I wish, kind of like Davion's family, I really deeply believe that Mackenzie remembers and knows what happens and wish she would honestly just tell, just say. It could be, yeah. Stacy says, I think the boys just didn't take it seriously until moments before the crash. They probably thought she was talking shit because we all know she's totally into herself. Yep. Agree completely. So, says Rawson visited the scene of the crash and used forensic mapping surveying tools to make relevant measurements. He reviewed the surveillance video of the crash and analyzed it. He concluded that the vehicle was traveling at an average of 88.86 miles per hour over the 2 seconds leading up to the crash. It was traveling approximately 97 miles per hour before leaving the roadway. He concluded that the vehicle was gaining speed before leaving the roadway. From when it left the roadway to when it crashed into the building, it was traveling at approximately 80.5 miles per hour. So by leaving the roadway, I think they mean when it hit the curb. So, I mean, it would have slowed down when it went airborne, obviously. Zaki Hazoo testified that he is employed as a detective with the Strongsville Police Department. Hazoo obtained surveillance video from the city-owned cameras for the date of the crash. Hazoo described that the video recorded the Camry approaching Progress from southbound Pearl Road before making a controlled turn from southbound Pearl onto westbound Progress Drive. Hazoo submitted the suspected mushrooms recovered from Shirilla by medical personnel to the laboratory for testing. The laboratory confirmed that the substance weighed 6.9 grams and was 95% psilocybin. Hazoo interviewed Shirilla at the hospital, during which she made a statement, either to him or her mother in his direction, about take my license away for 10 years. So she was already worried about driving again. GPS data from Shirilla's phone recorded that Shirilla's phone was located in the area of Progress and Alameda on July 28, 2022. Now, that is like 3 days before the crash, meaning that she took that same road, that same shortcut. A lot of people think she, was just shortcutting. Other people think she was scouting it out. I wouldn't put it past her to scout it out. I'm still figuring her out, y'all. On cross-examination, Hazoo admitted that a location ping from a cell phone gives a general location, not with pinpoint accuracy. He further admitted that Shirilla was under the influence of marijuana at above the per se level at the time of the crash. Oh, okay. I thought it was lower level. Huh. Why the hell didn't her lawyer go for impaired driving then? That's weird. Anyway, Hazoo reviewed Shirilla's social media history and documented over 100 instances of what he would characterize as distracted or reckless driving. On redirect, Hazoo testified that he did not believe that Shirilla was impaired by marijuana when she was driving. He noted that the investigation revealed that she was a habitual marijuana smoker and that she used it while driving. After the state rested its case, the defense moved for a judgment acquittal pursuant to Criminal R-29. The court denied the motion. The defense then called witnesses to its case. Allison Grullo testified that she owns an organic produce market in Strongsville and that Shirilla was a regular shopper in her store. She would often come to the store with Russo, and they were together in Grollo's store 2 or 3 times a week. In the many times that Grollo saw Shirilla and Russo together, they appeared to be very loving towards each other. They held hands or had their arms around each other, and you could tell they were very much in love. Kenda Shipley testified that she is Shirilla's aunt. 2 days before the crash, Shirilla and Russo came to Shipley's house and stayed for about 3 hours. During that time, Shipley saw no signs of discontent or unhappiness between them. They were very much in love and spoke of future plans together. Natalie Shirilla testified that she is Shirilla's mother. According to Natalie, she never heard Shirilla express suicidal thoughts prior to the crash and testified that Shirilla was living at the Russo house. With respect to Shirilla's physical health, Natalie has seen Shirilla suffer from POTS at least twice. Twice in her lifetime, okay. Natalie described her understanding that the condition can cause low blood pressure and an increased heart rate and can cause someone to lose consciousness. On cross-examination, Natalie testified that Shirilla was diagnosed with POTS in 2017 at the Cleveland Clinic. Natalie could not remember the name of the doctor who made the diagnosis. Natalie took Shirilla to the doctor after Shirilla fell to the kitchen floor on one occasion. The doctor made the diagnosis and gave Shirilla salt tabs to treat the condition. Shirilla would take the tablets or eat a salty food as needed. Since the diagnosis, there have been a couple of occasions where Shirilla would feel herself feeling low in salt or woozy and would sit down and eat some crackers or other salty food. Natalie admitted that she helped Shirilla apply for a driver's license twice since the POTS diagnosis was made, and neither time disclosed the condition. Natalie testified that Shirilla experienced a POTS episode a week or two before the crash and reported that it was really bad, hadn't been that bad in a long time, and she was scared it was going to get worse. Natalie admitted that she did not take Shirilla to a doctor or limit Shirilla's driving privileges. See, if your kid is having a POTS episode, that is the first thing people freak out about is, oh my God, you can't drive. None of this makes any kind of dang sense at all. At all to me. Let me go back over here and check everyone's comments real quick. RLF says, but I've been thinking a jury trial might have really helped. I think a jury trial might have helped Mackenzie get off, honestly, and it's possible it might have helped more evidence come out. More things might have been requested. Who knows? Oh, Rainbow. Dominic's sister, Christine Russo, her channel is the Big Sister Unhinged podcast. She has a petition for Dominic's Law that's a law to reform and redo the Son of Sam laws, update them, get them reinstated basically so that murderers can't profit off their crimes. Would have been nice to have had that before Jip got out, but that's where we are, and I'd love to see that passed. I will, hang on, let me Google her petition real quick, and I'll put it in the description so that whenever we finish this stream, you can go to the description and get it. You'll just need to refresh. Dom and Davian's Law. I keep calling it Dom's Law. I apologize. It's Dom and Davian's Law. Just a moment here, and it'll be in the description. Almost there. Okay, the first link in the description, I put in the link to this court document earlier. In case anyone wanted to read along. And then now I've also added Christine Russo's change.org petition. Auntie Z says it was a massive temper tantrum from a young woman who was never taught to regulate her emotions, whose bad behavior is enabled by absolutely horrible parents. Totally agree. Totally agree. Amos Hi-Fi says she's never going to admit wrongdoing, not with everyone in her life enable her and blowing smoke up her arse. Exactly. Agree with that too. RLF says 2 people die and she thinks no license is a punishment when she's already been ticketed for driving no license. Yep. She is a mess. Stacy the OG says her lawyers suck and he left impairment and POTS defense instead of bench trial. She deserves to serve time. Definitely. Yeah, Julie, twice. She'd had a POTS episode twice, so they think it's a valid defense. And it so on the salt, whenever you faint from POTS, unless it is an extreme tachycardia incident, usually what happens is you stand up and you've had so much blood pooling in your legs that because your circulation doesn't push it out good enough, your blood pressure plummets down to hardly anything and you faint. Whenever you faint and you hit the floor and you're prone, your blood flow kind of evens out and you come back to. And to prevent your blood pressure from going low, usually the very first line of defense the doctors will tell you is eat more salt. That'll keep your blood pressure up higher. I've had people think I lost my dang mind because most people feel it's just standard medical knowledge that a lot of salt, a high salt diet is bad for your heart. Well, I have heart issues, postural, and it's POTS, postural static tachycardia syndrome. And one of the first management ways is to eat a lot of salt. So that throws people off. And then, next you add to that, you obviously got to drink a lot of water along with it. You can start wearing compression socks. They help keep the blood pooling in your legs and all this stuff. And yeah, there's just so much to it. And they keep throwing it up that she's had these episodes. They're a big deal. They think it could have been a cause and stuff, but they don't talk about any kind of regular precautions in her life. Patchouli Julie says, was it a private attorney or paid? I don't know that. I assume paid, but I assume it was private attorney and that they paid for it, but I don't know. Okay. Yeah, Natalie admitted that she did not take Shirilla to a doctor or limit Shrilla's driving privileges. Natalie's statement on direct that Shirilla had never threatened self-unaliving was impeached with a police report from March 23, 2020, that reflected a police and fire personnel were dispatched to the Shirilla home to respond to a 15-year-old female who had threatened self-unaliving. The police report went on to state that Shirilla would not be transported to a hospital because her parents did not think her threats were real and did not believe she would hurt herself. Okay, I didn't realize that. That changes my mind some. I've been saying that I didn't think she would self unalive, but she has been threatening a lot. Now, threatening it often can be a cry for help from someone planning, or it can be a cry for help from someone who just doesn't want to. But it definitely shows either way. It's someone who's thinking about ending life. You know what I mean? And greatly, greatly to me, what's the word I'm looking for? Elevates the theory that even though she might not have been, regularly feeling like self-unaliving, she did feel like self-unaliving at times. So yeah, that kind of puts her crash into a new light for me a little bit. Joe King Rogue says, my daughter had to go on a 72-hour hold for threatening unaliving. Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. I hope she's better. Threatening self-unaliving, he corrected. Angela says, yes, she had a paid attorney. I hope they didn't pay him much because, man, he was no good. Now, although I'm glad she's in prison, I think she should be. But dang, that dude did a terrible job if it was really his idea for her to have a bench trial. Stacy the OG says, or a tantrum from a girl that was never disciplined. I think when she was told no, she went for the threat. Now, see, I agree from you there, but I meant to say I agree with you there, but I also feel like she, like by making the threat, it's in her mind. You know what I mean? And with her impulsivity, having made those threats, it was just a next step with her over impulsivity to actually do. And that's just my opinion. Like I always tell y'all, I'm not trained in anything. I'm just a person with a YouTube channel and thoughts. So take that for what it is. Just my thoughts. Auntie Z says, I think the threats were part of her punishing her parents for any attempt to discipline her. And yeah, like I said, I do agree. Angela says, joking rogue, I'm so sorry. That is so hard. It really is. Yeah. Amos says, a cry for help or a manipulation tactic of the extreme. I think kind of a combo. Definitely a combo. Yeah, the YouTube speak, it really, kind of, like, gets in your head. I find myself using it when I'm not, live or recording for YouTube and apologizing to my real life people. I'm like, "I'm sorry, I don't mean to talk dumb." Joe King Rogue says, "Yes, she is, thank you. Therapy and big support system." Excellent, I'm glad she's doing better. That's great. Patchouli Julie says, "Threat requires ideation. If there is a plan, that's the next step." Yep, I agree. Agree. Okay. The defense renewed its Crim R29 motion before the court turned its verdict, and the motion was denied. Before the court returned its verdict, and the motion was denied. The trial court found Shirilla guilty of all counts. The court commented specifically on the video exhibit showing the crash, calling the crash chilling and tragic, and stating that the video clearly shows the purpose and intent of the defendant to cause death. It noted that Shirilla made a decision to drive a car to drive an obscure route, a route she visited a few days before, a route not routinely taken by her. It noted that Shirilla chose to drive early in the morning when few people would be around to witness the accident or provide help. It concluded that Shirilla intentionally pressed the pedal to the floor, taking the car to nearly 100 miles an hour and aiming the car at the brick wall. The court stated that it could only be speculated whether or not she intended to self-unalive herself, but it concluded beyond a reasonable doubt that Shirilla acted purposefully and intentionally to kill Russo and Flanagan. Her actions were controlled, methodical, deliberate, intentional, and purposeful. Had to get a drink real quick, friends. At the sentencing hearing, the parties agreed with each other as to merger issues, leaving the court to sentence Shirilla on 4 offenses: counts 1 and 2 murder, each an unspecified felony in violation of big number there. Count 11, drug possession, a 5th-degree felony in violation of another statute. Count 12, possessing criminal tools, a 5th-degree felony in violation of another statute. Whoops. Crap, I clicked somewhere and it jumped my page. There, I found it. The court imposed a sentence of 7 months in prison on count 11 and count 12 with credit for time served. The court suspended Shirilla's driver's license for life based on her convictions for aggravated vehicular homicide. Family members of the victims then addressed the court. The state addressed the court, showing videos and photographs of Shirilla at a concert and celebrating Halloween during the investigation, and arguing that she lacked remorse for her actions and refused to acknowledge that the crash was intentional. One of Shirilla's family members addressed the court, as did Shirilla. The defense addressed the court and presented numerous letters in mitigation of sentence, calling the crash the horrible, terrifying, and tragic result of a selfish, intentional, and cruel decision by Shirilla. The court sentenced her to serve an indefinite sentence of 15 years to life on each of the murder counts. The court ordered all of the sentence to be served concurrently each other. Shirilla appealed, raising the following assignments of error for review. Let's see. Assignment of error 1. The juvenile court erred when it concluded that the state presented sufficient credible evidence to demonstrate probable cause to believe that Shirilla purposefully Steve. So the arguments here are all just basically them saying, we don't agree with this. We don't agree with this. Says, we addressed Shirilla's assignments of error in a slightly different order than she presented them. Shirilla contends that her convictions were not supported by sufficient evidence. While she challenges the convictions on each of counts 1 through 8, we note that counts 2 through 8 merged into other offenses at sentencing. Therefore, any error with respect to sufficiency or manifest weight of the evidence of counts 2 through 8 is harmless beyond a reasonable doubt. Okay, and they're just citing a previous case there. The next one says, a challenge to the sufficiency of the evidence supporting a conviction requires a determination of whether the state has met its burden of production at trial. Whether the evidence is legally sufficient to support a verdict is a question of law. So I guess I don't really get what they're saying there. That's some legal technicality. An appellate court's function when reviewing the sufficiency of evidence to support a criminal conviction is to examine the evidence admitted at trial to determine whether such evidence, if believed, would convince a reasonable juror of the defendant's guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. We must determine whether, after viewing evidence in light of the most favorable to the prosecution, any rational trier of fact could have found the essential elements of the crime proven beyond a reasonable doubt. The elements of offense may be proven by direct evidence, circumstantial evidence, or both. A person commits murder by purposefully causing the death of another. And then they quote a statute number there. Apparently, they were disputing, that she intentionally murdered someone. So Shirilla concedes that the only issue in the dispute was whether Shirilla crashed the vehicle purposefully. She argues that there was no evidence that she acted purposely. We disagree. A witness testified that less than a month before the fatal crash, he heard Shirilla threaten to crash a car in which Shirilla and Russo were traveling. Crash reconstruction and computer data from the vehicle revealed that Shirilla, on the date of the crash, made a controlled turn and then accelerated to the point that the pedal was pushed all the way to the floor while the vehicle traveled approximately 100 miles an hour. Someone inside the vehicle manually shifted the gear shift into neutral, but it was forced back into drive as the vehicle continued hurtling forward. Shirilla never took her foot off the accelerator and never depressed the brake in the seconds leading up to the crash, even as the car passed through an intersection, went airborne, landed, continued through an industrial sign and into a brick wall. Medical experts examined Shirilla after the crash and could find no evidence that she had been afflicted with a neurological or musculature condition that could have contributed to the crash. A mechanical expert examined the vehicle and found no sign of latent defects that could have contributed to the crash. The evidence was sufficient for the fact finder to conclude beyond a reasonable doubt that Shirilla crashed the vehicle purposely, intending to kill Flanagan and Russo. We therefore overrule Shirilla's second assignment of error. Shirilla contends that her convictions were against the manifest weight of the evidence. A manifest weight challenge attacks the credibility of evidence presented and questions whether the state met its burden of persuasion at trial. When considering an appellate's claim that a conviction is against the manifest weight of the evidence, the Court of Appeals sits as the 13th juror and may disagree with the fact finder's resolution of the conflicting testimony. The reviewing court must examine the entire record, weigh the evidence and all reasonable inferences, consider the witness's credibility, and determine whether, in resolving conflicts in the evidence, the trier of fact clearly lost its way and created such a manifest miscarriage of justice that the conviction must be reversed and a new trial ordered. Reversal on manifest weight grounds is reserved for the exceptional case in which evidence weighs heavily against the conviction. Shirilla contends that the weight of evidence establishes that Shirilla and Russo's relationship was in a good place at the time of the fatal crash. Burlinghaus and Vraha saw them shortly before the crash and did not report anything out of the ordinary. Others who knew Shirilla and Russo, Grollo, Shipley, and Shirilla's mother also testified that the two seemed to be in love. Shirilla points out that her POTS condition may have led to a medical issue that caused the accident, or she may have had some other medical emergency like a heart attack or seizure. See, she just throws out anything like heart attack or seizure, like just anything, whatever. The POTS isn't even her main line of defense. Like maybe it was a seizure, just anything she can toss out. Let me check comments real quick. Agnew says, I think Mackenzie went to the bench trial because she thought it'd be easier to convince one person rather than try to get 12. Oh, good point. That could have been. Ugh. Angela says conviction usually roll right into appeals. True. True. Joking Rogue says, Agnew, I agree, especially here in the jail calls. Yeah, the jail calls were very revealing. Yeah, the jury, like that one investigator I listened to, like the jury, like she said, a jury of people might have been more sympathetic to her age and would not have been as experienced in seeing what that one detective called domestic homicide or vehicular homicide. I think they thought there would be a plea offer. I don't think she ever got a plea offer. Oh, that's true, Agnon. Good point. Good point. Rainbow Ribbon says even Daddy Steve couldn't have swung that one for her. True. Oh, man. After a careful review of the record, we find that this is not the exceptional case where the evidence weighed heavily against the verdicts. A conviction is not against the manifest weight of evidence solely because the fact finder heard inconsistent or contradictory testimony. So they just kind of go to explain that. Says the record reflects that the fact finder was persuaded by the forensic reconstruction evidence and other evidence showing the constant maximum acceleration leading to the crash in connection with Shirilla's previous threats and the fact that her cell phone was located in the area leading up days. Yeah, and there's definitely video evidence of them fighting. It says, while certain friends and family testified about the loving nature of the relationship between Shirilla and Russo, other witnesses testified that July 22nd also saw significant fighting between them. Definitely did. And there is a creator who's made all those available. And I think maybe if I can do a live tomorrow, we'll show some of those. Trying to see if there's anything else. This looks like we're about 75% of the way through this document, but I don't want to read just a bunch of citations of previous law. Trying to see if there's anything else, juicy here. Says at the stage of this proceedings, the state was not required to prove the truth of the allegations against Shirilla. It had to present credible evidence showing probable cause supporting the element of each of the offenses charged. Blah, 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 legalese. Says we disagree with Shirilla. The state failed to meet this burden. As detailed above, the evidence established that Shirilla pressed the accelerator pedal to 100% acceleration, causing the vehicle to reach approximately 100 miles an hour before crashing into a brick wall, killing Russo and Flanagan. Whether there was probable cause to commit murder turned essentially on whether there was credible evidence that Shirilla purposefully caused the crash. There was. That's pretty final. There was. And then it says, no evidence of mechanical failure in the crash. So what? My name is pronounced Agina, not Agnon. Okay. Thank you so much. I think I pronounced it maybe like every way in the world except for that. Agina 2877. I'm going to try to remember that. Oh, man. Angela says, I hate plea deals for those that take lives. Me too. Me too. Well, friends, I think that's about all I can read for today. We've been going a little over 2 hours. If I'm feeling good again tomorrow, I will try to come on again. And I think what I'm going to do, I'll scan through the rest of this and see if there's any more of it that's worth reading, or if it's just going to be quoting other case laws for why they denied her. But if not, what I'll do for the next live is go through some of the videos that Dom took of Mackenzie and videos of them together. And we'll watch those on a live and discuss them tomorrow if I'm up to it, if not the next day. So thank you all so much for being in here. I appreciate everyone in the chat hanging out with me on my random whim lives, since I don't really plan them in advance because of, what we've been talking about, pots. But again, thank you all so much for being in here. I'm going to go ahead and shut it down now. And like I said, hopefully I will feel good and we can be back tomorrow. Have a good day, friends.